How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Fam. We are back with another FPL video, and today we're going to be taking a look at my lineup preview for Double Game Week 31. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I think the last one we did was back in like Game Week 13 or 14, so I thought I'd bring it back. We're starting to get more of the FPL videos, and I thought it was a convenient time to do so for this because there's a lot of decisions that could be made for me. So we're going to be using the FPL.team transfer planner. We're going to take a look at how my team did in the previous week. It's just going to be plain and simple because I free hit and you kind of can guess what's going to be on that free hit team from Game Week 30. Although it seems so long ago, you might not. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe channel if you're new or haven't done so already. It greatly helps out the channel, as well as turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Also, drop us a follow over on Twitter so that you can keep up to date with any and all FPL news, from price changes to injury news, as well as I post my lineup over there and anything in between. As well as give us a follow over on Twitch so that you can see when we go live for our preview and deadline streams. We'll be on, I'm not sure, I might be on the FF Scout deadline, so make sure to check them out in the link in the description below for membership access there. They have a great membership area, and it's helped me out this season significantly. I might be on that this week, I'm not too sure as of yet, but if not, I will be live over on Twitch for our normal deadline on Saturday, as we do streams there if we are not over there on Fantasy Football Scout, but we'll keep you up to date on that. But I'll be doing a stream. I'll be on a stream regardless, whether it's my own or Fantasy Football Scouts. We will see. Without further ado, let's talk about our partners for this video with Manscaped. This video is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped have just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0, alongside their Performance Package 4.0, which also includes the Weed Whacker hair and nose trimmer for those pesky little hairs that are getting out of hand, the Crop Preserver for anti-chafing to make sure that you are as relaxed at all times, the Crop Reviver for maximum conditioning and toning to make sure your jewels are as buff as possible, disposable shaving mats, as well as the premier travel bag for your on-the-go grooming, and lastly the anti-chafing boxers, which I can personally say are extremely comfortable and keep you cool under the highest amount of pressure. What I found the most impressive is that the Lawnmower 4.0 features ceramic cutting-edge blades to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, so you can now have that added security when venturing into uncharted territories. The upgraded trimmer also includes a multi-function on and off switch that can engage a travel lock, and also when you are venturing into those uncharted territories, it has the ability for a LED, a 400K LED, a very strong light that you can switch on and off so you can get that more precise shave. So make sure to join over 4 million men who trust in Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping, using the code FLAME20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code FLAME20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. So this was our free hit team. We got 75 points, a very, very good score. We had triple Spurs attack, Kane captained. I wasn't really going to captain anyone else because I thought the Kane was going to do well, and he did. Son did slightly better, but we got in the players that we knew were going to do well. So Kane did well, Son did well, Saka did well. None of those players we had. We got a clean sheet out of Kieran Tierney. Could have had a massive score had Wolves had the triple Wolves defense kept a clean sheet. They were looking very much on it, and then Jimenez got sent off, which means they just capitulated, which was really weird. But we brought in Johnny, who scored, which was a good differential, one of the very few differentials that you could actually have gone for realistically that would have paid off this week. Ian Atcher was my other one. He did have a chance himself that he could have potentially scored, and that would have been quite nice. We originally have Martinelli in the team as well. Those were the 3 Arsenal that we went with. I wanted to go a bit more attacking, but Martinelli did not play, so Ivan Toney came in for his 2 points, but it wouldn't have really mattered in terms of our bench because we had the same number of points, regardless of which player we had coming off it. Now, let's move on to the more important thing, because that was a long time ago. The free hit was very successful. I'm happy about that. Let's talk about what the team is looking like for this week. So this is FPL.team, fantastic website. Also, you can use livefpl.net. They also have a fantastic transfer planner, which is, I think it's going live today or tomorrow, and it looks great as well. So I'm going to be using both of those to plan out my FPL team. But I'm using FPL team for this one. Maybe we'll alternate or something depending on what we're doing. But this is how the team is currently set up. We have 1 million in the bank. So this is what my team looks like. So I've made the arrangements on the planner here to show you basically what it's looking like at the moment. So as we know, Trent is currently flagged, Ramsdale is currently flagged, and we have some potential players that we probably don't want in our team longer term. Watkins being one of them, Dennis probably being another one, Smith Rowe maybe being another one, although this week he might start. I'm not sure what Martinelli's situation is, because I remember there was a lot of South American players previously where they came back and they were a bit jet lagged because they had to come back on like a Thursday or something like that, like a Thursday evening. But I think Arsenal play on Monday, so they should be fine, which makes me want to get rid of Smith Rowe potentially. And Aitnuri is not a great longer term pick. Was kind of on and off it for me, to be honest, mostly off it. But the rest of the team is looking good. We have cover for Ramsdale with Mendy, who we brought in a couple weeks ago. We have Robertson in there for Liverpool defender. Cancelo we still have. We haven't gotten rid of him. Rafinha, Kulusevski, still good picks. We still have Weghorst because we didn't get rid of him, and he's got the double this week. It's just a bunch of the other peripheral players that we might need to change around. Now, as of note, the chips that I still have available, I have the wild card and the bench boost. So I want to see if I can pair those up as close to each other in game week 35, 36 as possible. 34 would probably be somewhat acceptable because we'll probably know the landscape of things before 34 kicks off, and we'll know what's going to be going on in game week 36. And if we go and look down, I'm just going to go look down here. So if we look at game week 30, which one's 34? That one's 34. By the time this game week kicks off, we should know what's going on in this, in 35 and 36, because they kind of taper into May. So they should have information on that. Probably have all the rest of the game weeks, to be honest, assuming that there's nothing crazy. They could probably do all the iterations for it, to be honest, with the remaining games and what teams are left in the FA Cup and all that sort of stuff. So with that being said, the bench boost we're going to be playing in 36, and it looks like for the most part City is either going to have a double in 36 or 37. We're not too sure. Liverpool's almost certainly going to have a double in 36. Same for Spurs, same for Arsenal, same for Chelsea. That is what we want. That is what I want, because then I can tailor my team to have the best of those players and get it bang on. But with a bench boost, it might be difficult because those players are typically more expensive. So we're going to have to fill our bench up with potentially some lesser fodder for teams that do double but aren't as great. So like Mateta as an example, I think Crystal Palace is scheduled to potentially have a double in 36, and he looks like he's playing a lot of games and is doing quite well, actually. I believe he's in like the top 5 in forwards for like points per minute or something like that, from what I saw. I think that was a stat off Black Box. I could be wrong there, but there was a stat which basically was in his favor, which meant he was in the top 5 forwards. Mind you, it's not really difficult to do when basically you have Kane and then nobody else pretty much doing well at the moment in the forward slots. So let's get back to the team. So this is for game week 31. Now, you notice right away, you can see right above me, we're probably looking to dead end into 35, wildcard in 35, and then get the bench boost away in 36, and then plan around the rest of the season, last 2 game weeks of the season. We have no Kane, we have no Son, so we can choose between the 2 of them right now. Double game week 33, not looking very good on that front in terms of players that we could use for that double game week. I'm not even sure if I even have any players that double in that. And I have a few players that will also blank in that. So Coutinho, Watkins, Rafinha, Aitnuri, they all blank in that game week, and I don't have any Man United. If I could get them, I would probably want them. No Leicester, no Newcastle, no Southampton. I don't have any of those players. And the Arsenal players that I do have, I have Ramsdale, who's currently injured at the moment, or suspected to still be injured, and Smith Rowe, who's the potential bit part player. So we might need to sort that out, basically. And I think that there are many different ways you can go about doing it. Personally, I think that we need to probably get Kane and Saka in as soon as possible, because I think that Saka's going to play game in, game out. I think Arsenal are definitely going to want to go for the top 4. But they're not going to want to let it basically leave their grasp, basically. They have nothing else to play for. That is their sole goal. If they got that, that would be a fantastic season for them. They have Spurs potentially on their heels for that. United could still have a vie for it if they were to beat Arsenal, even though it's still in Arsenal's control. But I think those are the two players mainly we probably need to prioritize, and we'll have to see. That is all going to be determined based on if Trent is fit or not. Now, I'm recording this on the 31st of March, so tomorrow, April 1st, will be when the press conferences and stuff will come out for the likes of Liverpool, City, United. And we'll see all of those press conferences, Spurs as well, Arsenal, and we'll see what happens with those. What players come back fit, all the quotes and that, and Fantasy Football Scout will provide that information. So, with that all being said, I'm going to go under the assumption that Trent is injured for this Watford game, but he'll be back for City. If that is the case, we have reasons to get rid of him. Because if we look at his fixtures, Man City away, not necessarily guaranteed a clean sheet there or any return. United at home, I mean, they beat them 5-0 last time. Could be quite easy for them. Everton at home, probably a good game, but could be, could be tricky. It is a Merseyside derby. Anything's possible. Everton are going to want to play their hearts out in that because they're going to be scrapping for relegation. He'll definitely be back in for 35. So whether we wildcard in 34, 35, we'll see. But he'll be back in for one of these two games, certainly, and then he'll be in for the rest of the season. So if we go into the assumption that Trent is injured, we'll do that line first because I think that makes the most sense based on the information that we currently have. So Trent would go out. That would give us $8.9 million to spend on a defender. Now we could make it nice and simple. We can go the likes of Reece James, or we could go someone like Aymeric Laporte, and just get ourselves another solid defender that we're going to keep probably for the rest of the season, or we're going to have in because their run-ins are both good. I mean, if we look at Chelsea play Arsenal at home, which they should win. They play Southampton away. They play Brentford this week. West Ham should be easy for them. Everton's easy as well. They have doubles later on. And we could potentially even get ourselves in a situation where we could wildcard Gameweek 38. Who knows? But we could just bring in one of those defenders and see kind of how things go. I prefer Reece James if I'm going to go this route, just as like a one-off. What it also does is it frees up a little bit more money in the bank for us to do other things. Like, if we wanted to upgrade Aït-Nouri to a different defender, like a Laporte, and play 5 at the back, we could definitely do that. Or we could just save that money for a rainy day when we want to upgrade, let's say, Robertson to Trent. So Robertson currently is 7.3 million. I believe he's still 7.3 million in my own team. So we would need an extra 1.2 in the bank if we wanted to go from Robertson to Trent in, like, let's say we were wildcarding in Game Week 35, but we wanted Trent for the Everton game and we didn't have any other transfers we wanted to make. We could still make that if we had the 1.2 million in the bank. So that's something to consider. So that would be could be the one transfer. We could then additionally take a hit and we can address some things in the team. So Ollie Watkins, he's someone in the team that potentially we might not want. Maybe we look for a double game week player and plan ahead a little bit and go for a Broja or an Adams or something like that. Let's put in Broja as an example. He seems to be quite a popular-ish pick. We could even if we didn't do that, if we went back to Watkins, we still have the 2.7 million. We could go Smith Rowe and we go to Saka, and that would make it so that we could play Saka instead of Watkins this week, who we don't particularly favor too much this week. And that would solve one of our problems. We would have an Arsenal midfielder in that's actually somewhat valuable. We would have Ramsdale as well. And we would just need one more Arsenal player. Probably Martinelli is the one I would go for. And we can do that later on, probably get rid of Coutinho or Rafinha, who would eventually, free up some funds. So let's say if we did that for a hit. Let's go hypothetically. Reece James is fit, Trent's out, and we want to basically fix the Smith Rowe problem. We'll have a good enough midfield. Captain Salah, Weghorst has got the double there. Probably the only player we would want. And we'd have 1.5 million, so if Trent was back and we did want to get him, we could get him back for Robertson right away. So let's see how that would pan out going forward. And the bench is pretty much fine, probably would do that order. So I'm just going to go down this line and see what happens. We don't have Kane. That would be the one scary thing, and we can do a Kane line in just a second. once we go down this line. So then we would just have just the 3 players in the Man City versus Liverpool. The only problem with this is that captaincy becomes a bit weird. You can potentially go for Reece James captaincy here and just put the... I would always probably put the vice on Salah just because he's just the most safe, I would say. But I would be half tempted to just captain Saka at home to Brighton. I think that could be a good shout there as well. We wouldn't have to do anything this week. I think Aston Villa away, Everton away should be easy for Spurs based on their form, but Aston Villa away is not going to be an easy game for Kulusevski, Son, and Kane, I don't think, personally. So I'd be happy to just kind of leave this team as is. Maybe there'd be some consideration to play Dennis versus Leeds at home over like a Robertson, just so we have, like, I'd probably favor the home team in Cancelo, but I think Robertson's just so good, I don't think you can probably bench him, even if he is playing Man City, for the likes of Dennis, who hasn't been doing as great. But Weghorst definitely stays in there. Maybe probably put Dennis ahead of Watkins on the bench, and probably leave it at that. Then we'd go into 33, where we would have the double. So Ramsdale, assuming he was fit, would come straight in. Rafinha and Coutinho would be the 2 players that would probably leave the team. So this is where we can go for the likes of a Martinelli. This is where we can go for the likes of a... we could even, if we had a little bit extra cash, if we took a hit, let's say, we could even potentially get someone that's, you know, a little bit on the more expensive side, like a Son. If we wanted to go for, let's say, a Ronaldo as an example, we could get rid of Watkins. He would be our second transfer. We would go for Ronaldo, bring Ronaldo in for Rafinha. We would be 1.1 million in the bank short of that, and the way we would fix that is basically we would get rid of Robertson, and we could bring in a defender up to 6.1 million. Probably what we would do is either bring in like a double game week defender like a Kieran Tierney or something like that. We could go for a Newcastle defender. We could go for a Leicester defender, although that's probably a bit trickier now that they have a bunch of players coming back. We can't go for Kieran Tierney if we go for Martinelli, so that would be something we would have to we'd have to worry about if we want a Martinelli. We could go for, instead of Martinelli, if we wanted to, instead of Martinelli, we could go for Harvey Barnes if we wanted to tap into Leicester a little bit. And then Robertson could be a cheaper defender. Let's say we would go for Ben White. We couldn't go up to Tierney. He would be just a bit too expensive. So we would go for a Ben White. Harvey Barnes is 6.6. If we wanted to stretch to Madison, it'd be cutting it close. But we could do it with 0.1 of the bank, and that would be for a -4. Ronaldo would be the captain. Saka would probably be the vice captain. Now, one thing to note with this is that if we were to go into the next week, we only have 0.1 million in the bank, and Kane is 0.3 currently ahead of Ronaldo. So if we wanted to do that, we would probably go with the Martinelli route. Instead, we wouldn't have Ben White. We would go for a cheaper defender, maybe like a Dan Burn or a Fabian Schär, someone we could just bench afterwards and don't really need to kind of worry about. If we went for, let's say, a Laporte as an example, we would have just barely like the 0.3, like I said, in the bank, and that would be, you know, just barely enough to get Kane afterwards. But let's say we go for a double game week defender. Let's say we go for I like Fabian Schär, but I know he's currently flagged at the moment. But we'll just put him in, just say he's some Newcastle defender. And I'd be happy with this team. We'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double game weekers. One of our captains would be a double game weeker. We at least have one player in Dennis who we know is going to play, who has a decent enough fixture, and we would happily have him come off the bench if somebody didn't play. And then that would be for -4. So if we look at the summary, we see that we take a hit in 31, bank a transfer, and then take a hit in 33, and we're decently set up. The only thing is with this line, like I said, is we don't have Harry Kane. Now, coming out of the game week, though, we would have Harry Kane. So we would set ourselves up to where we can have Harry Kane. We would get rid of Ronaldo. We would bring in Harry Kane. And we'd be able to do that quite easily. With the amount of funds available because of Fabian Schär as the downgrade. Mendy would come in here. We'd probably play Rafinha over probably Weghorst, even though he plays Wolves at home. We would still probably play the Arsenal boys against United. We'd probably captain either Kane or Salah. Probably Salah, make Kane the vice. And then the team looks quite nice in 34. And then we have a free transfer where we can just pick who we want going into this game week, because this would be game week 35, sorry. So this is where we'd be wildcarding. So we would have Kane available for 34 versus Brentford. And out of all the fixtures in those game weeks, Newcastle and Brentford are the two where Kane is probably going to be the most threatening. I think probably Brentford more so than Newcastle. I think Newcastle have kind of shirted up defensively. So that would be an interesting one to look out for. Now, let us put everything back to the way it was and see how the line would look like if we went for Kane. And again, this is on the assumption that Trent is out, and then lastly we'll do one with Kane, with Trent being available for the Watford game, because we would definitely keep him in that case. So again, this is what the team would look like as it stands. We'd have 1 million in the bank, and Trent is out again, so we would go from Trent. We could bring in a defender for 33, potentially. So, again, we could go for a share. I'm going to go for just Dan Burn, just to be a little bit different. Also, he's slightly more expensive, so we'll go for that. We would get rid of Smith Rowe, and we would downgrade him to Gordon, who would be a much cheaper alternative here. We would get rid of... we wouldn't play Dan Burn. We would play Gordon ahead of him. Dan Burn would just be on the bench. We would then get rid of Ollie Watkins, and we would bring in Harry Kane, and we'd still have 0.5 in the bank to be able to do something, basically. With Dan Burn also, as a note, we can get Doherty just barely with 0.1 to spare, and we would play him probably over Coutinho, although I don't feel good about that. So I think probably prepping for the Newcastle player would be better. So I'm going to go with, I'm just going to put Dan Burn back in there, just because I think Newcastle could be, it's just a cheaper defender that we're going to use later on down the line. And that would be the team. We'd probably vice Kane, maybe captain Kane. I think both Salah and Kane are very good. Salah, last time he played Watford, though, scored 3 and got an assist, so take of that what you will. But again, this is on the assumption that Trent is injured. This would also be a -8 right off the bat. So that would be right off the bat. We wouldn't be able to get the likes of Saka, and we would have just enough like money to whereas we wouldn't be able to get Martinelli. So that would be a bit of an issue there. Moving into the next week, this is where we'd probably make our move for an Arsenal player of some kind. We wouldn't play Gordon. This is where we probably utilize Dennis. If we were going to, maybe Coutinho's the fall guy here, and we would get rid of Coutinho and bring in the likes of Saka. This is something we could do. We can go for Martinelli as well, and then we can just kind of run with that. We probably still play Mendy versus Southampton, maybe Ramsdale versus Brighton at home as the home fixture. Yeah, let's just mix it up. We'll throw him in there, assuming he's fit. And then we still have the 1.2 million in the bank, and then we move into the double game week. We'd have Dan Burn, who would come in. We'll put him in ahead of Rafinha just for the time being. We'd have Saka, we'd have Ramsdale, and then we'd probably need maybe another doubler in there. We would get rid of Kane, and we can go for Ronaldo. And then if we wanted to, because we probably want triple Arsenal, we could go for an additional hit. Where we can potentially get rid of maybe the likes of a Rafinha, and we can even go even more expensive here at 6.8. Maybe we go for Maddison as an example, just to have a Leicester, buy into that Leicester system. We probably don't play Robertson versus Man United, or Rudiger versus Arsenal could be a bit tricky as well. But maybe even Dennis we don't play, and we just put Dennis as first sub. And that's something we go for. We would captain Ronaldo, and then we'd vice captain Saka. Now with this, it's an extra transfer, but we do get Kane in earlier. We still end up with Saka in the double game week. We just miss him for Palace, which would be in, whereas Kane we'd miss him for Newcastle and Aston Villa. So this plan makes more sense. It also allows us to get Ronaldo in for that extra fixture. Kane can also easily do just as well versus Brighton, so that is something to also kind of consider. We would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, same number of doublers, because I don't think it's crazy to go for more than maybe one Leicester, one Newcastle, one United. I think the only issue here is that we wouldn't have triple Arsenal, which would be something we could do. We could go for a -8 if we really wanted to. And could we do Gordon to Martinelli? We could, actually, but where would we play him? I mean, we'd probably play him over Robertson. That doesn't feel good, though, considering Liverpool won 5-0 versus United last time. So, and then after that, in game week 34, this would be the last game week before we would wildcard. We could then take out Ronaldo and bring Kane back in for when he plays Brentford again. And then we would have one less Arsenal player in versus Man United. So we'd have just Saka in there, but we'd have Kane and Salah, who, as we had in the previous team, would be fine. We would have Dan Burn versus Norwich, which is an important game for Norwich, and Newcastle are going to want to get those points because they want to prove that they are getting better. Mendy, again, would come back in for Ramsdale, and that would be our team, and then we'd wildcard and go on about it. So, I know this video is quite long, but it needs to be said, and it's quite important. And these are the sorts of things that you have to think about when you're thinking, like, all the different lines. So if tomorrow, let's say, those two plans seem all great, but what happens if Trent's fit? Because if Trent's fit, then I don't have money to get most of those players, and that would be a big problem. So, Trent Alexander-Arnold's fit. What do we do? Well, Watkins probably comes in for Smith Rowe. Mendy comes in for Ramsdale. You know, Trent could be fit. Reece James could be fit. Then what do we do? Well, we could be in a bit of trouble, basically, because we'd have to make sacrifices somewhere. And I think those sacrifices can come here. So if we got rid of Watkins, we could prep a little bit later on for double game week 33. We could just bring in a Broja, who would be cheaper. We could also do Adams, I think, as well. So I'm actually going to do Adams because he's 6.9 and he's more expensive. And I just want to see, because I'm just doing this on the fly here. We would then get rid of Smith Rowe. We could bring in Saka right away. And he would probably play over the likes of Coutinho. And Coutinho would be our first sub. And then even still, if we didn't want to use that money for Saka, let's say we wanted to keep Smith Rowe, and Smith Rowe was going to stay on our bench for a week. Coutinho comes back in. Ait Nouri, 5.7 million, doesn't get us enough for Reece James, and is just short of the likes of Laporte. So we would have to go for, if we wanted to go for a striker here, we would have to go for Broja, which I'm okay with. I think that's perfectly fine. We could then do Ait Nouri to Reece James or Laporte. Again, either works. And Reece James would probably play over probably Broja, maybe? It's a bit tricky because could Broja be benched versus Leeds? It's very possible. I think Coutinho can do well versus Wolves, which is why I'm tempted not to bench him. But let's say we do Broja. We'll just put him first sub. We'll put Smith Rowe second sub. But yeah, it's a very difficult decision there. But that's something we could do. We have an awesome backline. That backline would be great if Trent's fit. That would be just for -4. We'd still have close to 1 million in the bank. But we wouldn't have Kane and we wouldn't have Saka. So that would be a bit of a problem. And we can't realistically do that without doing some huge concessions, basically. We would have to, if we wanted to go for Kane and Saka. I can show that quickly afterwards. But after the fact, we would have a decent number of players playing against each other. So we probably want to get rid of Robertson. Maybe we address the Smith Rowe situation almost immediately. We could probably bring in Martinelli, play Robertson, or put Robertson on the bench instead. Broja would stay on the bench. We play Martinelli, and we just have to kind of hang on to Coutinho unless we want to take him out for a hit, and we could bring in Saka that way. That could be an option. And then we could go the following week. We have Weghorst, we have Saka, we have Martinelli as our some double game weekers. We have Ramsdale come in, that'd be 4. Broja would come in for Rafinha, that'd be 5. We could then get rid of the likes of let's say Robertson for a Tierney as an example, and he would we can't do that actually. We'd have to go for a different defender. I'll just put Fabian Schär in again just because he's a double game week defender. Maybe he comes in for Rudiger, maybe. That'd be a bit kind of difficult to do because I still think he can get a clean sheet in that one versus Arsenal. But again, this line is a bit trickier to play with Trent being in there because, again, we get Saka late, we don't have Kane, we don't have Son, so it'd be a very, very difficult to do that. Now, lastly, Trent's fit, we want Kane. Let's see how we can do it. So, again, Mendy comes in. Watkins would play over Smith Rowe. But we would get rid of Watkins immediately because he is our most expensive forward, and we'd want to get rid of him probably the most out of all of them. Mind you, Dennis we'd like to get rid of too, but we can't. So we need to alleviate 4 million somewhere. So how are we going to do that? Well, we could do Coutinho down to as cheap of a midfielder as we could possibly get in Gordon. And then we'd have to alleviate funds even further. Could I do Dennis to Broja? I can't. So I have to do like Dennis to a very, very cheap forward. But again, this is like a Gelhardt as an example. That would be for -8 just to bring in Kane, basically, and we get an extra fixture out of Gordon. So it's not really looking great, to be honest. It would be much easier to bring in Saka, kind of just ignore Kane. You know, even if we did, we could potentially do Watkins out to, let's say, we could bring in Broja for the double. He'd be cheaper. We could do Adams too, and then Coutinho for Son again. Still, we're still 0.5 short, so it looks like it's a -8 if we can't get rid of Trent, basically. But it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. I'm still not sure. I need to see what the press conferences say. It makes my life easier, I think. It makes this team to manage much easier if Trent was unavailable, although it'd be very tempting to just kind of keep him as well. So let me just think down in the comments below. What would you do with this team? Again, this is what the team would look like on paper, at least how I would play it currently. 1 free transfer, 1 million in the bank. No Kane, no Saka. Want to save the wild card for later to pair it up with the bench boost. What would you do? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's going to do it for our Game Week 31 lineup preview. So if you haven't heard about Fantasy Football Scout, they have a fantastic members area during the regular season. It's £25 for the membership, and that lasts the entire year. And during the off season, they give a 20% discount. But if you have missed that discount, fear not, you can still get the membership for £25, and it's fantastic. You can see the membership area just behind me. You have a bunch of different stats that you can use, powered by Opta stats, and create your own custom tables. You have the Rate My Team tool, you have the season ticker, player comparison tools, a whole array of things that you can use to help elevate your FPL game. So use the link down in the description below so that you can get access to these exclusive tools to help elevate your FPL game. Sign up now. And that's going to do it for our double Game Week 31 lineup preview. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe channel if you are new. If you haven't done so already, it greatly helps out the channel, as well as turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Drop us a follow over on Twitter so that you can keep up to date with any and all FPL news, from price changes to injury news and anything in between. As well as give us a follow over on Twitch so you can see all our preview and deadline streams. Like I said, I might be over on the Fantasy Football Scout one, so make sure to go subscribe over on their channel as well. And if not, I'll be live on Twitch as per normal, so make sure to follow us there as well. So you can see whichever place we're going to be, you can catch us there. As well as check out the Fantasy Football Scout membership area. It's fantastic. There's a link in the description below. If you're over on Twitter, it's in my bio or pinned somewhere, and if you're over on Twitch, it's in the about section. It has all the tools you need to help elevate your FPL game, as well as use the code FLAME20 when using any form of orders for Manscaped on manscaped.com. You'll get 20% off, and you'll get free worldwide shipping, which is fantastic offer. And they have a bunch of different things over there to help keep yourself well groomed going into the summer, because if you're not, gets a little bit difficult down there, if you know what I mean, when it gets a little bit hot and sticky. So make sure to check out all the products that Manscaped have to offer. Code FLAME20, free shipping and 20% off. Thank you all for watching, and until the next one, take care.